In this video, I will define preparedness, talk about the cluster approach, and present a few examples of science and technology for preparedness. As defined by UNISDR in their proposed update of terminology document, preparedness is the knowledge and capacities developed by governments, professional response and recovery organizations, communities, and individuals to effectively anticipate, respond to, and recover from the impacts of likely, imminent, or current disasters. A comprehensive analysis of disaster risks and effective linkages to early warning are essential to preparedness. Preparedness activities and systems include arrangements for coordination before, during, and after disaster, stockpiling of equipment and supplies, contingency planning, evacuation and public information, and associated training and field exercises. Coordination and information management are central to preparedness. Good coordination means fewer gaps and overlaps in humanitarian and disaster risk reduction organizations' work. Clusters are groups of humanitarian organizations working in the main sectors of humanitarian action, for instance, shelter, sanitation, etc. These clusters are created when there are clear humanitarian needs within a sector, when there are many actors within sectors, and when national authorities ask for coordination support. The aim of the cluster approach is to strengthen system-wide preparedness and technical capacity to respond to humanitarian emergencies and provide clear leadership and accountability in the main areas of humanitarian response. Here you see the coordination architecture in the cluster approach. You can find further information at the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, UN-OCHA's website. In addition to this coordination system for preparedness, there are a series of technologies and science being used in preparedness. Science and technology are also needed to develop more effective and efficient emergency supplies and preparedness kits. For example, the survival blanket or the emergency drinking water. Contingency planning aims to prepare an organization to respond efficiently and adequately to an emergency and its potential humanitarian impact. The contingency planning process can basically be broken down into three simple questions. 1. What is going to happen? 2. What are we going to do about it? And 3. What can we do ahead of time to get prepared? From training and drills to computer simulator games, for instance, through virtualization and mobile technologies, science and technology are present. A list of simulators and linkages to their web pages and other relevant resources is included in the additional materials. You will hear Officer Stefano Villa, who has a triple affiliation. He is a member of the Swiss Humanitarian Aid Unit, SHA, and of Compass Coaching Villa & Company. And he is also an active member of the Swiss Armed Forces Rescue Troops. He will talk about evacuation drills and associated training and field exercises.
For drill and training, we use differently methods depending on the level we are training. For example, training management people or leadership leader basically in the teams, we can use theoretical methods, and what we use is for example simulators, where we can prepare training or exercises, and we simulate the situation, and we can train the management part of the engagement, let's say. Other branches, search, rescue, medical, for example, we train people directly in the fields, in the rubbles, with the tools. Also, there is a theoretical part, but it's very small, and we need really to get quickly through the practical part, so we work basically in the field. During the training, to train the trainer, that's why we use this method. We train the trainer. The trainer, they train their own units, and then they can respond directly in their own country. This is the better way in case of disaster to have on the spot directly teams trained, ready in order to respond very, very quickly. And the resources are, we need people, of course. It doesn't matter which kind of people, armed forces, firefighters, civil protection, civilian, doesn't matter. And then we need, of course, allocation, training facilities, and specific for the branch you have to train, you need specific facilities. So for example, if you train people for earthquake, you have to build some training facility, rubbles, in order to train the people into the rubbles. If you prepare people for an earthquake engagement, for example. If you train people for flooding, so you have to prepare and construct some flooding facilities to explain and to show how to engage after this situation. So the role of simulators or virtual classrooms, let's say, is to allow the trainers to get through the training and each time. You can use simulators during the day, during the night. You can choose very fast when you want to train, and you can choose the sequences, which level do you want to train, and you can also create a lot of different situations. You can put on the screen, for example, first an earthquake, then a flooding, then a fire, and so on and so on. And another big advantage using simulators and virtual methods is you can train people on distance. So you can sit in Switzerland and you can train people in Brazil or in Indonesia. The disadvantage is probably you don't have any direct contact with the person. So the interaction is limited. And for many part of the training, you can't do it by simulators. So you absolutely need to be on the spot, for example, using tools. If you have to use some tools to bridge the rubbles, to cut, or to pull, and so on and so on. So there are, or if you have to train dogs, of course there are sequences or part of the training you can do it by simulators or virtually, but the most part of the training take place on directly in the country with the people, with the dogs, in the rubbles. And preparing the training, we also, let's say, analyze in which country we are going to train people. We analyze the culture, religion, the methods that do they have. They are also still using, maybe for years. So we go first and we do a certain assessment. We speak with people, we check their equipment, their locations, their facilities, everything, and then we try to find a mix between their methods and knowledge and facilities and equipment and tools and so on, and our system. The goal is not to implement the Swiss system in another country. The goal is to bring our experience using their facilities and equipment and knowledge, integrating also culture, whatever, and to find their system.
Other examples of technologies and tools for preparedness include data collection applications and programs and data visualization tools, and many other tools for monitoring and tracking supplies, information, etc. For example, the global mapping of emergency stockpiles webpage. Coordination of actors is key during preparedness, and as you have seen, many technologies, tools, and science can be used to support preparedness activities.